Good morning, everyone. Nonnie here. I wanted to share my sunrise with you this morning. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Look at the reflection on the pond. Gosh, that is just breathtaking. Wow. Good morning, everybody. So, I've been thinking about a few things that I have forgotten to share with you in my other videos, so I thought I would share this with you this morning as I was doing my morning training. One is, let me teach you what I learned never, ever, ever to do on my first hike. I had on that big backpack and I saw this beautiful fungi formation, and it was so colorful and tiered, and I thought, oh gosh, I just have to take a picture of that. So I bent over to take the picture, and I did fine, but getting back up, I fell straight on my back and I couldn't get up, and I laid there and looked at the sky and went, okay, lesson number one: never bend over with a heavy backpack and think you're going to be able to get up when you're my age and be able to stand up straight. I laid there, legs and arms flailing, and I just started dying laughing. I thought it was hysterical. And I thought, you know what? If anybody is around me and can see this, well, they've had their good morning laugh. Oh well. That was my first lesson. My second lesson was, remember when I told you about the sounds I heard outside my tent at Springer Mountain when I had to stay in the Springer Mountain parking lot? Well, when I was talking to Ron Brown about it, he said, well, what are you going to do if a bear comes up? And I said, well, what I've heard from everybody else is that you're supposed to lift your arms up and kind of hit your poles and make yourself look big. And he said, mm-hmm. And I said, okay, what does that mean? And he said, you know, that works for a lot of bears because they're more afraid of you than you are of them. They're going to run off. But you get one that's a little seasoned, been around a lot of people, they're just going to sit there and look at you and go, I'm not moving. I said, okay, well, what are you supposed to do? He said, do you have a whistle? And I said, well, I do. He said, do you have a whistle on your backpack? I said, well, yeah, it came with it. He said, those are worthless. He said, do you have a real whistle? I said, I do. He said, do you use it when you're sleeping? I said, what do you mean use it when I'm sleeping? He said, do you have it right next to you? I said, well, no, it's in my backpack. He said, that's not useful. He said, if you see a bear or bears around your tent, all you have to do is blow that whistle. They hate the sound of that, and they will run right away, even the stubborn ones. I said, oh, okay. So that was lesson number 2. Wanted to share that with you. That came from a state park manager. Guess he knows what he's talking about. Lesson number 3. And for you more seasoned hikers, you're just going to sit there and go, oh gosh, that's just sad. You know, we all have to learn. Okay. Here's what it was. When you're hiking and you're going into a shelter area, thought I would reverse this so you could see the second pond I've come on. Gosh, so pretty. Wow. Okay, back to lesson number 3. My husband, he just shook his head and went, honey, You know how when you are walking into a shelter area for the night, and you spend the night, and you've hiked a long day, you're tired, you just see the sign, you just hike right on in. That's great. But the next morning, when you get ready to leave, you kind of need to remember which way you hiked in and not to hike out the same direction. That happened to me twice. I don't do that anymore. You know, you got to kind of remember, if you hike in to the right, when you leave, you're going to hike out to the right. You're not going to turn left. That was lesson number 3. Lesson number 4, and the person that taught me this lesson is Tim. I think his last name is Cole, with the Georgia Appalachian Trail Club. I met him on the trail during my first hike, and he told me, never, ever, ever pass water source when your water is down to about halfway without filling up. Even if you don't want to and you think, well, the next water source isn't that far, I have plenty of water, stop and fill up your water. Well, I listened to him on the first hike. Then, here's the next lesson. I didn't do that whenever my husband and I went and hiked Molly's Ridge. And we got down to about halfway. We thought, and I remembered what Tim said, which is what makes this really bad. But we kept hiking. What happened when we got up to Molly's Ridge? No water. All of our water was gone because we thought there was a reliable water source there. That was on us. I knew better. I'd been told, and I didn't do what I had been instructed. So if any of you can learn from that mistake, I hope that you will. That was a tough lesson. Next lesson. You know, when you're going to use a shuttle driver or you're going to stay in a hostel, a lot of them don't take debit or credit cards. And I'm sure you all have heard that you need to have cash with you. And a lot of through hikers in older videos say $50. That's not enough. I suggest you have a minimum of 100, maybe 125. So the reason why is because they don't take credit cards, they don't take debit cards, and sometimes it costs $100 to get you where you need to go. You don't want to use all of your money and not have anything left. So I didn't know that, and when I got my first shuttle, he didn't tell me that he only took cash. When I spoke with him on the phone, don't depend on them to tell you that. You need to learn to ask. Same for hostels. Fortunately, he and I worked out a solution, but I felt bad. That was a good learning lesson. This wasn't a lesson, but when I was doing my research, I learned this, and I thought, well, that sounds logical. So I went ahead and did what was suggested. I have a brick lighter for my fuel source, but I only had one, and I thought, okay, I guess I need a backup fuel source because that one could fail. That was what this video shared. So I got another one. I took 2 with me, and sure enough, it happened. On my 3rd shakedown hike, that big lighter failed, and I was so glad I had the other one, especially because it had been so cold and I really wanted something warm to eat. Just a suggestion. Also, I learned this. I had a 20-ounce bottle and a liter smart water bottle that I had full because I filter my water through a Canuck bag, and I left the liter bottle outside of my sleeping bag and put the 20-ounce bottle in the sleeping bag with me in the shelter. The next morning I got up. That 20-ounce bottle, you could shake it, and it was fluid. That smart water bottle was frozen solid. I was really glad I had taken that 20-ounce bottle and put it in my sleeping bag with me that night. Made sure the cap was on really tight. Just a suggestion. Here's a good one. Laura Ellen Ashley just posted a video of her hike where, poor thing, she forgot her spork, her spoon, and she had to eat with her brand new trowel, which actually I thought was hysterical. Poor her, but I mean, it was amusing if you were watching it on a video. She did it with a lot of grace. It was so sweet. Well, I imagine most of us are going to have used trowels where we're not going to be able to do that if we forget our utensil. Well, when my husband and I did that hike to Molly's Ridge, I don't know how I did it, but I lost my Sea to Summit spoon. It made me sick. And he said, "Don't worry about it. I have two. I always go with two." I said, "You pack 2 spoons?" He said, "I sure do, for this very reason." I said, "Okay." He said, "It only weighs less than 2 ounces to take an additional spoon." And I've had to use that a couple different times, so I learned the hard way. Well, in the future, I'll be taking 2 spoons. And I realize this sounds like a lot of doubling up, but think about it. If you misplace, lose, it breaks, whatever, what are you going to eat with? That's kind of a big deal. Another lesson. Never ever did I think I'd ever be saying this. You need to study your poop. You need to know what bear poop looks like, coyote, wolf, boar. You need to study all of those. Make sure you know which is which. It's important. When you're hiking and you see droppings, you want to know what's been in front of you, behind you, or is going to be coming up right next to you. Another thing I learned, which I just had to shake my head and go, oh my. You all probably already know this stuff, but I didn't know. When I used my Canuck bag, however you say that word, and I got to my very first water source, I just kind of plunged that thing right in there and got the water, and I saw all these little tidbits floating around in that water, and I thought, I'm not drinking that. Well, I emptied it out, and I realized you can't just plop your bag in the water and then get ready to filter it. You just kind of gently lay it in the water to fill up, because you're stirring up all that debris and sediment when you are enthusiastic like I was. I don't know if that's going to help anybody. It's just another lesson I learned. What I also did was, it was so cold on that last hike, I had taken an old sock, an old footy sock, and that was clean, and put it around my Sawyer squeeze and put it in a quart-sized Ziploc bag, and I slept with that. So the sock was to absorb any water that came off of it after I had filtered water, and then the Ziploc bag, of course, was to keep it from, going everywhere. but I slept with that in my sleeping bag as well, and I didn't have a problem with my Sawyer squeeze at all. I shared this in another video, but I'd like to share it again because it really scared me. I got bit by something on my first hike right here, and my face, I'm not kidding you, that's what my face looked like. It got swollen, and my throat started, I felt my throat starting to close. I was out in the middle of nowhere, and so I got out my Benadryl, and it was night, and took it, and I had to take some more after a little while because it helped, but I didn't think it was helping enough. It ended up being a really fortunate thing that I had that. It took about 2 days for that swelling to go down. Lesson learned for me. Benadryl was a good idea, but I pack more Benadryl now. It was a good decision for me, so I don't know if that's going to help anybody, but if it does, I'm glad. Shoelaces. Most of us are going to go through at least one pair of shoes training, and those shoelaces that are in those shoes, I save them, and I have an extra pair packed in my backpack. And the reason why is because you can use that as a tourniquet. You can also use it to put them together in case of an arm injury where you need a sling, and you can use that to hold your arm in place, or you can help somebody else that needs help. I realize all these extras, but that's okay. I'm not hacking my fears. I am a safety conscientious person, and I want to make sure that I'm being responsible for me and for my family. They want me to be safe. I won't be safe. That doesn't mean it's a good decision for anybody else, but it's a good decision for me. Encouragement. We all need it, right? I watched Laura Evelyn Ashley's video last night about the second day of her shakedown hike, and that little thing, I was watching it, and when she started crying, I started crying because it hurt me so bad for her. And when she said she wanted to quit, I was like, oh no, girl, you're not quitting. We're going to find our grit, determination, and focus. And I just want to lift her up and tell her, Laura, that was your first shakedown hike. It's okay. You know, we all have bad days, all of us, and crummy things that happen. Don't give up. And that backpack, yeah, you got to figure that situation out, because your shoes and your backpack make all the difference in the world. Because if you don't have those right, your hike is just not going to be successful. But you'll figure it out. That's what shakedown hikes are for you to find out what works, what doesn't. And you're going to do just fine. You are, you will. I appreciate you watching, and hope that you will consider joining me on my journey. And if you can't hike, I will hike for you. You just let me know, and I'll be thinking of you along the way. I've actually had numerous individuals ask me if I would do that, and the answer is a resounding absolutely. I don't know if any of those tips are going to be useful to you, but if they are, great.